Hi all. These are generally conversations between adults after the children have left the table. The language can be spicy and the subjects can get saucy. So if you're ready, this is the Southern Fork. Unscripted kitchen chats and also studio chats with some of the most interesting voices in the culinary South. I'm Stephanie Burt, a food and beverage writer based in Charleston, South Carolina, who travels with her fork to write for a variety of publications, from magazines you might have on your coffee table to the website you love to visit for your favorite recipes. And I'm inviting you to come behind the scenes with me to get to know the people who make this Southern culinary landscape so special. I'm always hungry for the next bite, thirsty for that next sip, and ready for the next conversation. Let's dig in. The Southern Fork is sponsored by me this week. The economic downturn of the last few months has affected some of my sponsors, so at the moment, I'm without one. If you or your brand would like to know more about sponsorship of this podcast, I'd love to hear from you at stephanie@thesouthernfork.com. But until that's resolved, I'm going to use this space to highlight organizations I'd like you to check out. This week, I'm highlighting the work of the Southern Foodways Alliance. I've been a student of their scholarship for more than 20 years, and I've been able to contribute in a small way to the work by writing for the quarterly Gravy. But their podcast by the same name, the articles, and symposiums all explore the diverse food cultures of the changing American South. Additionally, the documentary work, particularly of the filmmaker Joe York, always captures my attention and helps amplify voices I might not otherwise hear. Visit southernfoodways.org to dive into all of this, and thanks for listening. Now, it seems the idea of American home cooking is back. For some of us, it never really left, but irregardless, I'd suggest that one of the most satisfying home-cooked meals is a roasted chicken. I hate to brag, but it's my specialty, and although I've tried many recipes for them, my favorite to date has been the Buttermilk Herb-Roasted Chicken published in the Local Palate in 2014. The buttermilk tenderizes the meat, and any combination of soft herbs you have with some sea salt, and in my case, some chopped garlic, make magic. If you cook a lot, then you know that cooking someone's recipe connects you to them. And so I'm using that connection to check on this recipe's author, Dale Hawkins of Fish Hawk Acres in Buckhannon, West Virginia. He's been a popular caterer and restaurateur in the state for years. And as you can guess, he and his partner Teresa Lipps have had to reimagine their business on the fly. But that hasn't stopped his love for seasonality or his love for cooking, as his recent baking of 100 strawberry rhubarb pies attests. Welcome to the Southern Fork, Dale.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sad that I can't be in West Virginia eating all of the delicious food today, and we have to do this remotely, but I am sitting in my socially distanced for months tiny apartment in Charleston, South Carolina with the Boston Terrier on my lap, and where are you right now?
I'm sitting in the Hawk's Nest, which is a small private dining room just above Fish Hawk Market in Buckhannon, West Virginia.
That's what I was going to say, Buckhannon, West Virginia. Talk to us a little bit about the town. Just give us an idea, because you're such an advocate for West Virginia. And it's such a beautiful part of the country. So just tell us a little bit about, that's a place where you've really built your home and your business.
It is. I actually was born and raised here, and it's in central West Virginia. It's right in the middle of the state. And the town itself has a population of somewhere between 8 and 10,000. There's a little private college called West Virginia Wesleyan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the centerpiece of the town, but it's a picturesque, it's an old town, and it's just had a what I would call a renaissance period over the last 5 years. And it's bustling with life and character.
How long has Fishhawk Acres been around? I know it's kind of morphed now, and we'll get to that, but
it has. We were established in 2008, so we're about 12 years old now.
And I first became aware of you when I was an editor at the Local Palate, and we did a feature on you with lots of recipes, and I had to work with my team to put all of that online. And it's always great because we have to interact with each other and get to know each other through stuff like that. And I specifically got to know you through one recipe that you have now admitted that you can't remember very well. But it kind of changed my life. So I am a little obsessed with roasted chicken, which is why I never order it out at a restaurant. If you go to a restaurant with me, which might never happen again at this rate, apparently, but you know, I just am not going to order roasted chicken because I make it at home. But I saw that film, Jiro Dreams of Sushi, years ago. I don't know if you ever saw that documentary. And I thought, I'm just going to repeat making roasted chicken or baked chicken. I do the chicken thighs too, until I get it right, until I know it's like my thing and I can do it. And so I made it so many times over the years, Dale, and I made your version, which is a buttermilk marinated roasted chicken. And I would make it occasionally, but that was fancy time because then I had to have buttermilk in the fridge. But I finally, honestly got a little tired of it, and that's saying a lot. So I moved on to another recipe, this past winter, and when I was flipping through my recipe files, I think, you know, lots of Southern people that have recipe files, right? Clips and cards and magazine stuff ripped. I had printed out years ago the recipe from Local Palate, and I happened to have buttermilk because I'd made a buttermilk pie, and I thought, I'm going to make this. I haven't made roasted chicken in a while, and it was during the pandemic, you know, the super like late March. Still kind of a little dreary and cold outside. Right. And I had that buttermilk chicken, and you got me back on the train. It is, I forgot how good it was. And I have made it probably every 10 days to 2 weeks since then.
That's not too much.
But I mean, it does mean that I eat chicken almost every day. Kind of, in a way. Because I am eating whole chickens as a person, you know, household of one. So,
well, I applaud you for not ordering roasted chicken out because it's not easy to do in a restaurant setting because, you know, first of all, it takes so long. It takes a minimum of 45 minutes to roast a chicken.
Right.
And, I don't think I've ever had roasted chicken out that I've been happy with.
Well, and
so
it's
a
something
perfect
that
recipe
really,
for home.
Yeah, it's something that's really satisfying. And then you can very much use the bones to make stock, and you can use the chicken breast to make other recipes. You know, I like the dark meat for sure, but you know, it's just a perfect recipe, and it's gotten so much love on my Instagrams and people wanting to make it because it's so pretty, and you can make it in under an hour. It does take 45 minutes. Your recipe does. That I thought, what a better way to start a conversation, because you're really known for this local, fresh, really kind of farm to table stuff there in West Virginia. And as a caterer, you're dealing with this situation where suddenly, you know, you're not having people come in. to the restaurant. You're not being able to cater. And so you've really had to change, and I hate to use the term, but I'm going to use it, pivot, right? Everybody's pivoting these days.
Yeah, it is a pivot.
So, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this because it still involves a lot of recipe development, which I think is something that's really on people's minds right now. So how has Fish Hawk Acres morphed? Can you give us a little bit of what was kind of going on before
Sure.
March, and then how it's really changed?
Yeah, well, we do we did a tremendous amount of catering, particularly in the Pittsburgh market. We did about 70 weddings last year. Of those 70 weddings, probably 60% were in the Pittsburgh Western PA market, and then the rest were in West Virginia. So in addition to that, we also had the market downstairs, which was kind of like we did a good amount of takeout. But we also had seating for about 30 guests. And so we had a nice combination. Teresa and I have always looked at our business model as let's create revenue centers and create several of them so that we're not dependent solely on one of them. So I think we became kind of, I won't say recession proof, but we became resistant to if there were a downturn in the economy, that we could easily pivot and do something else. So we did a lot of that before pandemic or pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, I think on the night of March 17th, before the state was shut down, we said we need to become an essential business. So we said, let's become a grocerant.
New term.
I don't necessarily think it's a new term, but
what does that mean, Dale?
So that's a mix between a grocery store and a restaurant. And you see that a lot in grocery stores. They really take the idea of a grocery store and kind of catering to the consumer that we're busy. We don't have time to cook. So let's make fresh foods that are easy for grab and go, that kind of thing. And because the modern family is going in 4 different directions at any given time. So if you create something in which makes it easier for them for meal preparation, it opens another door. And so our idea was, when the pandemic started, that, okay, everyone's on lockdown. We got to be a little more creative about how we do things. Can we make it on takeout and curbside delivery only, or do we need to start offering groceries? Do we need to start offering home delivery, that kind of thing? So we added all those things within 3 days.
Wow. And how big is your staff?
So pre-pandemic, it was 18, just here at the market in Buckhannon. Now, again, we have a different staff in Pittsburgh, and we have a pool of people that we pull from for catering. But it was 18, and we basically cut that in half in order to survive.
Right. But the groceries specifically are not something I can just get at a big box store.
No,
right?
No. It's we kind of took the without saying whole food model. We're talking about the perishables. When people think of grocery stores, they think of the perishables being on the outer perimeter of the grocery store. And so those are the things that we focused on: the produce, the meats, the cheeses, the dairy, beer, wine, those types of things, charcuterie.
And those things you were able to source those because you already had relationships before this all started.
Correct.
That's how you built your business, right?
Correct.
So you were able, what I hear so often from chefs is that they really still want to support their purveyors during this time, because that's their colleague. They can't do business without it. So you were able to still support these small farms or dairies or or other producers, correct?
I wouldn't say quasi because, when it started, it was the beginning of March and there really wasn't a whole lot in season. I mean, we were getting lettuce and there were a couple of things that we were able to source fairly easily, but, we had to dig deep to get some of the other items.
What kind of response has it been since then as you've kind of had to build this space more? I mean, you had all three, but now you pushed this part out.
Well, the funny thing is we were in the middle of a remodel. We bought the building next to us and we had just begun remodeling the next space over and we're ready to break through the wall. So our thought was that our plan was to open a wine bar. Well, we knew that wouldn't fly in the face of COVID. So that's when Teresa and I sat down and said, okay, grocery market, grocerant. That's what our new space is going to be. And it came about pretty quick. We talked with our contractor the very next morning. He said, yeah, we can do this. It'll actually speed up the process because we don't have to put a bar in. It eliminated it eliminated a lot of the little things that would have had to have happened for a bar.
Were you sad that vision had to go away so fast, or how? Can you talk to me about that emotion?
Not necessarily, because we this is only part of the space, so we still have more space to expand into. So we're thinking, we can always change back later, and whenever you're given lemons, you make. I hate to be cliche,
or limoncello, or a lemon shaker pie, or any other
lemon
things.
tart. So yeah, I'm one of those people that there's always a way around something. You just got to find the right path, and I kind of felt like that's what we were doing.
I get that. Is there been either something prepared perhaps, so we can talk a little bit about the prepared foods and takeaway meals that has surprised you, that has been a product that's really kind of flown off the shelves? I think during this period, we've all been kind of surprised that we couldn't find yeast all of a sudden because everybody was doing sourdough. I mean, there's just like things where suddenly you're like, everybody's buying this. Why is that? Have you experienced that from a purveyor standpoint?
Well, I'll tell you what sold the most for us, and that was comfort food, but I wasn't really surprised by it. Anything comfort food, chicken pie, chicken pot pie, chicken and dumplings, meatloaf. Baked steak is very popular here, and people look at us and say, well, what the hell is baked steak?
Yeah, let's ask that. What the hell is baked steak, Dale?
So basically it's Ive round you put it through a cuber. So it's been basically, you know what I'm talking about when I say a cuber? Yes. I'm talking about a commercial piece of equipment, but, so basically It's been tenderized. You just beat the heck out of it.
It's a cubed. You would find those at packets in grocery store as cubed steak.
Correct.
They look kind of modeled in a way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it's cube steak that's dredged in flour, with salt and pepper, and then you sear it, and then you make a brown sauce, and you just completely cover it and bake it. Sort of like smothered chicken or smothered pork. So you bake it until it kind of falls apart. It's so tender because it's a piece of meat that's not necessarily tender until you cube it and then braise it. So you braise it for about 2 hours, and then it's fork tender. And you serve it with mashed potatoes, gravy, and green beans. So it's very
always
country.
Green beans.
Yeah, and it's not fresh green beans. It's the kind that you put on the stove and you put onions and bacon and you let it simmer for 2 or 3 hours until all the flavors blend together. Kind of like how my grandma used to cook.
Yeah, I mean, that's a variation. We would have that here in North Carolina, where I grew up, as country fried steak, but it would be more deep fried or fried.
Right. Crispy.
And then crispy. And it kind of has this chewy, tenderizing kind of thing. It's not melt in your mouth at all, but then it's smothered with a chicken gravy, which is usually a milk and flour base.
Right.
Yeah. So this is much different. And these cube steaks, they're not going to be very thick to begin with, right?
Right. Portion wise, it's about 4 or 5 ounces. and they're probably a quarter to a half an inch thick.
Well, that is the definition of comfort food, I think, West Virginia style. Yeah. Now, since we are on the subject of West Virginia, I need to come real clean about my love of ranch dressing. I'm basically an honorary West Virginian at this point. So a lot of our Southern Fork listeners probably don't know that ranch dressing in general is really ubiquitous throughout the South, but West Virginia has an especially strong affinity for ranch dressing. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, what's up with that? Do you have to have ranch dressing at all times in your house, Dale?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't like bottled ranch dressing. We make our own version here at Fish Hawk called dill buttermilk. And it's sour cream mayonnaise, a lot of dill, garlic, Worcestershire, a little sugar, a little salt, and garlic.
That sounds super delicious. I
think I'm missing a few items in there, but it's really good. And we have people that buy it by the quart and say that they could drink it with a straw.
I just am imagining people with like a small quart container from restaurants sipping it out of a straw. But restaurant ranch dressing is a complete thing altogether, and it's not usually nearly as thick as commercially bottled ranch dressing that has stabilizers and thickeners in it, correct?
Correct.
So, yeah. So does it go on everything? I love to dip my French fries in ranch dressing.
Yeah,
and I think I would love Dale's buttermilk with that.
I think you would. Yeah. I need to send you a quart.
Yes, that's fine. We'll talk about that offline. Yes. That's great. Yeah. Help me feed that addiction. But, I think it's really important to kind of think about your particular region when you're a chef, and you've really built your career around the eating local kind of thing. I mean, in doing my research, I noticed that, you have done some work with the West Virginia Department of Agriculture before, really promoting the states and stuff. How does that translate when you're catering?
It depends on where I am. Now, when I'm in Pittsburgh, I have to remember where I am and think that, okay, Pittsburgh people want Pittsburgh things. So I've created a whole different, like, Pittsburgh-ese kind of
Let's hear one of those Pittsburgh-ese. What is
Pittsburgh-ese? Like, it's one of the most popular stations for the past 4 years has been a Pittsburgh station that has pierogies, kielbasa, typically either halushki or sauerkraut to go with it. And that's a Pittsburgh station. It could be a lot of different things because Pittsburgh's a very ethnic city. Sometimes there's a little bit of an Italian slant on it, sometimes Polish, sometimes Asian. It just depends on what your definition of Pittsburgh is.
But are you able to do the local kind of, work with local purveyors and stuff when you're catering volume?
I can still do it in Pittsburgh. Even though I'm in another state, I still have honed in on folks around Pittsburgh to do some of the sourcing of the ingredients.
Oh, that's awesome.
And even with catering in West Virginia, we even though it's a larger volume, there's certain things that we can't get in volume, but we usually try to combine elements of that into the catering.
And that is, that catering can be a really high pressure and in some ways kind of thankless job, because you're not getting the top chef masters invitations often as caterers. But especially during now when you've had to work so hard, what keeps you coming back to cooking and developing recipes that are so good that you don't even remember you made them? What keeps you coming back to the kitchen like this?
My drive is the perfect ingredient. And I think if you stick with seasonality, like, For example, peaches. I only use peaches when they're in season and I don't use West Coast peaches. I will start with Georgia peaches and I'll work my way all the way up to Pennsylvania and sometimes New Jersey. As the peaches ripen up, I follow the coast up, and that's what I'm using for peach cobbler, peach crisp, peach dumplings, that kind of thing. Same thing with apples, tomatoes in the height of the season. We're going through tons of rhubarb right now. I made over 100 rhubarb crumb pies last week, and we sold every damn one of them.
I saw those on Instagram and all those clamshells. You had them in these clear clamshells, and there was too many for one table, right?
Yeah,
right?
they were. It was funny because I kept saying, how many damn strawberry rhubarb pies do I have to make? Because they were going out the front door as fast as I could get them out.
Yeah.
So I think if you focus on the ingredient, to get back to your question, if you focus on the ingredient when it's at its peak, the food speaks for itself, and people clamor for it because it's at the peak of flavor, at the peak of ripeness. And, there's something to be said about eating with the season.
And then cooking with the season. So just to reiterate that a little bit, not only just making something that people will sell, or people will buy, but making something that doesn't feel old, like you're worn out with it, right? Because you've just gotten rhubarb, and then you really spend a lot of time with rhubarb, and then you can say goodbye to it and welcome peaches.
See you next year.
Yeah. You're like, please.
The funny thing is, though, if I know I'm at the end of the season, I will hoard 50 or 100 pounds and chop it and put it in the freezer just so I can extend it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then you're like, oh my goodness, this is ending. That's funny. And, hoarding 50 to 100 pounds, come on. That's a a professional commercial chef. Like, I'm going to hoard 5 pounds.
The funny thing is I hoard ramps. When ramps are in season, I hoard those. We have a couple 100 pounds in the freezer.
They freeze well.
They do, and we freeze them in pints. And we actually have a menu item. It's a ramp burger that has caramelized onions, ramps, cheddar cheese, barbecue sauce, and bacon on it. And so that's on our menu all year long. So that's why we freeze that many.
That's great. That isn't for the Valentine's Day kind of dinner, though, because there's no way that you're going to be...
You have to be really intimate.
That gives you some big garlic breath for sure. So you've really kind of come through now, and the seasonality is really coming to meet you. You've moved beyond just the lettuces, and you're figuring out, how to do this business in this time. And you can see now that it's probably, it wasn't as short of a break as I think we all thought we were going to have. We thought, okay, by May 1, we're going to be okay. And we're still a little dealing with this idea of how to reopen.
I didn't, when we started this, we were thinking, this is going to last for 18, 24 months.
Really?
So
Good for you.
Yeah, we were planning for the long haul because, with something like this, with a virus that there's no vaccine for, we were thinking this is not going to be something like when everything reopens, it's going to be a different world. We're going to be doing things differently. And I still don't think we've completely figured it out, but I think we're on the right path.
Good. Well, what makes you hungry, Dale? What is kind of lighting your fire right now besides hoarding rhubarb?
Rhubarb. I think food in its simplest form at its peak of season, like a tomato with fresh salt and pepper on it, with the heat of the field still on it. I mean, that's what keeps me going and makes me, I have a love affair with food, and it just starts all over again whenever I touch that food.
I haven't gotten that first tomato yet here in Charleston. We're getting very close.
I haven't either. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of beets here now. So we have our own farm in Rock Cave,
Mm-hmm.
And we do beets and heirloom tomatoes in a high tunnel, or not in a high tunnel. And the beets we have golden and bull's blood and candy cane and probably about 5 different varieties. So we're going through a lot of beets right now too. As with most things, once you overdo it, you get tired of it and you're ready to move on to something else.
That is true. Well, the second question that I ask all my guests is really, you're making up this job as you go along, especially now it's becoming even more evident, right? As you have to figure things out. What is one aspect of the job that you do that really meshes like a puzzle piece with an aspect of your personality?
Oh God, that's hard. Sarah said, Stephanie's going to ask you this question. And I'm like, oh shit. Because things have changed so much in the last 2 months. And then I find myself, when I do come up for air, I have to take a little break and I'm like, who am I?
Right.
I'm not the same person I was 2 months ago. But I think the thing with me is that I like to connect with the community and I like to assess the needs of, when this whole COVID thing started, one of the things that we ask ourselves, what are the needs of the community? And one of the needs was that people need to have access to food. And a lot of people are afraid to come out. So why don't we take it to them and offer the delivery service? So I think the one thing that we try to focus on is, how do we fit into the community? And it's not just the community of Buckhannon. It's the community of West Virginia. It's the community of Appalachia. And then, that kind of, our region. How do we fit into that? So I think my puzzle piece is trying to identify what the needs are and then filling that need on all those levels.
And it's also just really interesting to hear you talk about being so close to Pittsburgh, but yet it's such a different place. That regionality is so different.
But that's part of Appalachia. Pittsburgh is. It's often referred to as the Paris of Appalachia. I think that's a stretch.
I really haven't. I'm glad I haven't heard that before.
We were working on a food system meeting with one of the nonprofits that I work with, and one of the speakers there referred to it as the Paris of Appalachia. And I'm thinking to myself, I've never heard that before.
No, well, let's just say one of the biggest cities.
Pittsburgh's really cool.
It is. It is cool. It is cool. What keeps you up? What keeps you up at night?
Oh, I could be very vulgar right now. You're going to have to edit that. Usually my bladder.
Okay.
You'll have to edit that.
That's fine. That's fine. I have a magic picnic basket. So I don't talk about this very often, except for my guests. I'm able to time travel, which means I'm able to go back in time and get a specific person to make something specific for you. I'm able to source things. I'm able to cook a little bit myself per that chicken and about 5 other things when I'm not, just repeating them. So what if I could bring you a dream meal? And it doesn't have to be a meal that goes together like a meat and 3. What would be in that picnic basket?
Oh, I think I may have been Italian in another lifetime. Because there's so many Italian things that I love, but in particular, I love a good charcuterie board or antipasta. And if I say antipasta, I would get more things, right? Because antipasta is a lot of things.
You can have them both.
I love cheese. I love charcuterie. And if you threw a nice bottle of basically any Italian red, whether it's a Chianti or a Super Tuscan or what, I would have to say, and then if I have to drill down and say what kind of charcuterie, I'd probably say a prosciutto di Parma. I love cheese-wise, I love triple creme cheeses like a brilliant Savarin with fig honey or fig jam.
Dried figs are so great too.
I love any kind of fig. Even a fresh fig with some good, nice chev. I think those things are so appealing to me, and that I could make a meal out of them.
Well,
and don't forget the Marcona
great.
almonds.
Oh yes, so just a nice. You can't have a cheese board without something crunchy like that, right?
And olives.
So, olives. Okay, keep going. Pickles. We're doing a variety of pickles.
Yeah, I think if we did some Uncle Bunk's Sweet Hots, 14-day Sweet Hot pickles, we could throw that in there. Maybe a baguette.
Well, if people want to learn more about Dale Hawkins and Fish Hawk Market now in West Virginia, you can go to thesouthernfork.com. I'm going to have images there so you can see the face behind the voice. I'm probably also going to have an image of that chicken and maybe even the recipe shared from the Local Palate, or at least linked to the Local Palate, so y'all can get in on the fun buttermilk marinade action. And if you like what you hear, I don't always get to go to all of the places right now that I would like to, but I get to share a meal virtually with so many people right now. And thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me today. And
you're a treat, Stephanie.
And I'm so happy that you're doing well there. And I'm happy that peaches are coming into season and you're about to cook up a storm with them. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Talking with My Mouthful. I just have a little public service announcement this week regarding the podcast, and you'll hear me refer a few times in this interview that you just listened to with Dale Hawkins about my Instagram feed. And of course, I'd love for you to follow along there, but there's much more that I do than just this podcast. I actually operate in the food space in a food writing capacity, and you might remember that from the intro, but a really great way to connect and keep up with that is something I started at the first of the year, and that is really my newsletter. It comes out once a month, and it's free because I mean, come on, I'm not going to ask you to pay for my newsletter. And it just gives you a little highlight of what I've been working on this month and what I'm kind of thinking. I always recommend a couple podcast episodes that are not mine, and link to any articles that I've written. So if you go to thesouthernfork.com, you'll see on the first page that there's an easy place to sign up right on the right-hand margin of the page. You'll see a little block to actually sign up for. It's called On the Menu with the Southern Fork. And I really have enjoyed writing these newsletters and do get a lot of comments back from readers and listeners. So I hope that you'll join me over there. I'm working to share more of my work with you besides just this podcast. So thanks so much for listening, and have a good week. And I'll be right here in my walk-in closet this time next week. Talk to you then. You've been listening to The Southern Fork. I can't wait to bring you more culinary conversations, but in the meantime, I have one question. Are you gonna eat all that?